guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danielle, and in this video we're going to be doing vegan meal prep, specifically items that you can use for staples weekly or bi-weekly and that you can use interchangeably in multiple recipes. Of course, I'm going to walk you through it step by step, give you the recipe, and also give you the keys. The keys are just tips, tricks, and simple things that you can do or that you should be paying attention to in order to complete the recipe successfully. So let's go ahead and get started. So the recipes that I'm going to be making in this video are fried potatoes, roasted sweet potatoes, a black bean and corn mixture, tempeh bacon, which is obviously not really bacon and doesn't even really taste like bacon, but you can use it in the place of bacon in something like a BLT, and also fried cauliflower. Now you guys have seen me make the cauliflower before in this video, and I'll link it below in case you want to check that out if you missed it, because that video specifically details how I make that cauliflower and the full recipe is in that one. So if you want that, go ahead and go over to that video when you're done with this one. And if you want my tips for transitioning to a vegan diet, you can check that video out right here. So the first thing I'm going to get started on are the sweet potatoes, and basically all I did to get those started was peel them, rinse them, and then dice them into large chunks. Once I was done with that, I popped them all into a bowl and added about a half teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of pepper, and somewhere between 1 and 2 tablespoons of sugar. I also added a little bit of melted coconut oil. This is optional. It will keep it from sticking a little bit better if you do this, but if you want yours to be oil-free, you can omit that. And then I just put them onto a wax paper lined baking tray and pop those in the oven on 375 for about 45 minutes. So with these sweet potatoes, you can do a few different things. It's easy to add them to things like Nourish bowls. You could also just have them as a side with a meat substitute or some tofu or something like that, and a vegetable. They're good for a snack because they just taste good on their own. So my plan is to do what I eat in a day videos after doing meal prep videos so that you guys can see how I'm actually using these recipes in my daily life. And if you want to see that, drop a comment below and also give this video a like. So while the sweet potatoes were in the oven, I decided to get started on the black bean and corn mixture, and all I did was took a skillet with about a tablespoon of olive oil, and then I added in 1 small diced onion as well as 2 cans of black beans that I rinsed and drained. And then from the 1 pound bag of frozen corn, I added about half of that to the mixture as well. To season it up, I just added in some salt. I used probably about a teaspoon of salt, and then about a half teaspoon of onion powder. I added in about a tablespoon of minced garlic, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, and about a teaspoon of cumin. The cumin is what's going to give it that Mexican flavor, so you really don't want to leave that out. Even though this recipe is really simple, it has a lot of flavor, and it's all because of the cumin. So don't leave that out. If you don't have it, you can go to the store and grab it. It's only about 99 cents, so it's definitely worth spending the money on to have that in your arsenal. So to the pan, after I had all of my ingredients in, I added about a half cup of water, and that's just to keep everything from sticking to the bottom of the pan and just becoming kind of like a mush. If you cook your black beans for too long and you don't have enough liquid in the pan, it's going to kind of turn it into refried beans. I ended up cooking this mixture for about 15 to 20 minutes on medium-low heat. You do want to taste this toward the end for seasoning, just in case it needs a little bit of extra salt. If not, then I just let it cool down and then popped it into a container. So now that that's done, I'm going to start on the cauliflower. And if you watch my last video on how I make this, you see that I usually cook it in the air fryer. But this time I'm not going to cook it at all. All I'm going to do is batter and bread the cauliflower and then pop it onto a parchment lined baking tray and throw it into the freezer so that I can freeze each piece individually. So once that was frozen, all I did was pop those into a large Ziploc bag, and now I can just pull those out whenever I want. If I just want a few pieces, I can do that. If I'm cooking for my whole family, then I can make a lot. So it gives you the option to kind of make a little bit or a lot, and you don't have to worry about it going bad in your refrigerator after you've already cooked it. You guys have already seen one thing that I've done with the cauliflower, which was making the bang bang cauliflower tacos, but in upcoming videos, you'll see me making different things with the cauliflower and using it in different ways. So definitely stay tuned for that. Next up is the fried potatoes, and I usually eat these for breakfast. I'll make breakfast burritos, and I also eat them just with grits, and that's actually my favorite breakfast. I just like to have fried potatoes and grits, and it's really good. So I eat that a lot, but you can definitely eat them as a side dish as well. So how I got started with the potatoes was I just peeled them, rinsed them, and then chopped them into pieces. Then I added about a tablespoon of canola oil. You can add whatever oil you want to use for this recipe. It doesn't really matter. And then I added my seasonings, which were a teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of both garlic powder and onion powder, a half teaspoon of smoked paprika, and I usually add this because it gives it a smoky flavor and makes it even more delicious. And then I also added about a half teaspoon of black pepper. I gave it all a good mix and then put it onto my air fryer trays, and then I popped it into the air fryer at 400 degrees for 11 minutes. And finally, I did the tempeh, which called for a few other ingredients. So for that, I used soy sauce, liquid smoke, and sugar. And the reason you need to add oil for this particular recipe is because it will stick to your pan if you don't, unless you have like a super non-stick pan and you are 100% sure that it won't stick because it has sugar in it. Then add a little bit of oil just to keep it all from becoming a big mess inside of your pan. Nobody wants to spend a whole bunch of time cleaning up. And it also adds just a little bit of a fatty nature to the tempeh. So all I did was took a skillet and added about a tablespoon of olive oil to the pan. Then I added a 1/3 cup of soy sauce, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, a half teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and about a half teaspoon of smoked paprika. And then finally I added 1½ teaspoons of sugar and about a teaspoon of liquid smoke. The liquid smoke is going to give it that smoky flavor that you would normally get from bacon or any other smoked meat. So that is definitely something I would not leave out. It will still taste good if you don't, but you'll be kind of missing one of the elements that makes it as good as it is, if that makes sense. But if you don't have that and you do have smoked paprika, that's another way for you to get a little bit of a smoky flavor. It won't be as intense as the liquid smoke, but it's better than nothing. So once I got all of that stuff into the pan, I just gave it a mix and then added in my tempeh. I'm cooking this on medium heat, and I just kind of tossed all the tempeh around in the sauce because you want to have it well coated on both sides. And then you just want to cook it and continuously flip it to make sure that you're getting that seasoning throughout each piece of tempeh. In total, it took me about 10 to 15 minutes to prepare the tempeh from start to finish. So it doesn't take that long, but you do need to kind of monitor it and stay on top of it so you can make sure that you're not burning it. And if you notice that the liquid in the pan is getting low, you can add either more soy sauce or you can add a little bit of water just to keep it all from sticking. So I did add about a 1/4 cup of water to the pan just to keep everything moving around. And then once all the liquid was soaked into the tempeh and it was starting to caramelize, I removed it from the heat, and that was pretty much it. So of course all these recipes will be in the description box below, but let me give you the keys. So the first one is don't overcook your potatoes. And the reason why I say that is because you're gonna be recooking them throughout the week and you don't want the texture to be like really chewy and just dry like potatoes can be when they're overcooked. So if you just kind of slightly undercook them or cook them just to the point when they're done, that'll give you some wiggle room to reheat them throughout the week and have the texture still be good. Key number 2, flip your tempeh continuously, because if you don't, there is sugar in your marinade, so it's going to stick and it's gonna burn. So definitely keep turning it, and also that's the only way to get the flavor on both sides, because it is pretty shallow. It's not like you're soaking it completely in there. So if you don't keep turning it, not only does it give it more opportunity to burn, but it also doesn't allow the flavor to be on both sides of the tempeh. So definitely keep them going and turning throughout the cooking process. And key number 3 is don't skimp on the cumin in your black bean and corn mixture, because that's where all the flavor is coming from. That recipe is really simple and it's only like 5 ingredients, so you need to really make sure that you're adding all of them to it. And another tip I have for you is that you could add vegetable stock or vegetable bouillon to the recipe to give it even more flavor, but you don't have to do that and it will still be flavorful without it. But just make sure that you're tasting it for seasoning before you finish cooking. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up as usual. And of course, I'll be back in a couple days with another video. In the meantime, make sure you watch all of my current videos and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anything in the future. And if you want to be notified when the videos are going up, then make sure that you hit the notification bell. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.